Hey guys, so I'll give an update on where I got to at the end of the day. It doesn't seem like there's going to be too much more productive I can do without maybe talking to Deep, so it's probably a good time to make this video. Um, First thing would just be to talk about some of the changes I got to today. So I had a pass at the messaging one more time around the form entry, making sure that the last step specifically is good, and some of the messaging on the review step. So if we're creating credentials, we do the form entry. It's going to look generally pretty similar to the ending of either of those import flows. So it's a different route, but it looks like you're following the same process. And on the previous step, if you were to go back, you'd start over the same way. So it's just going to look and feel like you were doing the spreadsheet upload. Our success page looks the same. And I made sure that all three of the success sort of like sections of pages at the end of all of those three flows are going to behave the same way. So we have a link to review credentials, and we have a link to go back to the credential list at the end of every of the success flows. So if you upload a spreadsheet to update or create, it's going to do the exact same thing as this. I got rid of the notifier that has the finish button because there was some feedback on a card from one of you guys that was saying that it doesn't look like the main action is very easy to overlook given that this is right here. So someone will need to get that working as we discussed in the dev sync, and then this guy will just go back, which I think is the most straightforward given the feedback you guys left. I did run into some problems in the middle of the day with a 400 error from backend after assigning columns. So it was kind of sporadic, like it would work a little bit and then not work for a little bit. So I did get to the messaging on the warning or like on the review stage. So here I think this has just been tightened up a little bit. It should look pretty consistent with the spreadsheet upload. Some of this messaging is more specific on the error. The only case that for sure I hadn't gotten to, and because the 400 error was kind of limiting me, was when you have warnings that show up here for the credentials that will be updated. These are the ones that are like in the case where the recipient's updated the name. So that's like one small thing I need to log. Again, that's up when you're doing an update and you have warnings on the ones that are going to be updated. Otherwise, pretty straightforward. This messaging just got updated a little bit. Yeah, see here I'm getting that error again. So this is kind of like sporadically working and not working throughout the day. Yeah, bad request for the review CSV column map. Okay, so in general, that step is it's just been a little bit flaky on me today, but I did have a chance to go through most of it. I'm just not 100% confident in all of it because of this error kind of interrupting me. So it definitely needs a pass from David or Alan to go through and just make sure that the cases are going to give you the right help message here and the right validation on the next step. Reasonably certain about them, reasonably certain about things being where they should. Just a matter of maybe doing a final pass on it. Yep, so that was the changes. Otherwise, bit off like a few small bugs from the QA, but we can go through what's remaining. So that was the review credentials button. So we discussed that in DevSync, how that's going to work, and I made note of the 3 places where that needs to be linked to. This is the thing that David needs to take over, and I think everything is stable enough for that to be useful. So I don't think that there's too much of an issue around anything that should be blocking there. For this guy, Depender had asked for a tooltip on the form, some of the form entry fields, so that it was clearer. So if I'm making a new credential, what a credential license ID is and what a recipient ID are not really clear. So if one of you guys could add a little help icon with a tooltip, that would be great. I would have done this myself if I knew the specific difference, but to be honest, I don't. So I've tagged all three of you guys. Pretty much anybody can do this one. I just needed to hand it off. In the in-progress stuff, the help docs is really key. Duncan's well aware that this is something that needs to happen, but we also need that 400 error to stop happening so that we can actually screenshot and write about the process. Otherwise, I'll bump him today and make sure that he knows to probably get this done during his workday tomorrow. Otherwise, everything that links to these help articles is good to go. I've made drafts of the articles, so as soon as those get published, everything will work with them. I'm not sure about adding an additional help article in the case that you have to do some troubleshooting for the creation or update flow. But I'm just going to ask Duncan about this one and see how he feels. I don't think this is a must-have. It's just that I just wanted to discuss it. So Deep, for the import emails, on David's account, I've got the account email and password and the template numbers of the files. So I had to just create a new email template, and I used like the credential has expired type. So you probably need to have a new type because the requirements were forcing me to have that field, the credential login on it. So for both of those templates, you'll need to remove that line. And then on the success one, if there's any way that we can link to the stage where you're reviewing, that would be great, because I think you're kind of stuck without it. But I'm not sure how this is going to work. So if you have questions, maybe ask Alan or David. But I think that that's something that needs to happen after the successful upload. I'm not 100% sure where this happens. Maybe this is after the review step and like just before the success, in which case it would be okay, and that can be removed. But I'm not 100% sure when this email gets sent out, so that button needs to be figured out. Like I said, those are the template numbers. This should be pretty straightforward for you. This is the last thing, or second last thing, the name change, email change. So these guys, we don't have existing templates on the dashboard, and some of them require fields that I don't know how to access with the dashboard. So Deep and I should probably talk about this one. I might need to just edit them manually. It would be great if we could keep it through the interface though, just so that they're all in the same place, and all I would need to do is update some of the text. You know, like the best case scenario would have been to just add a line to each of these three existing templates, but unfortunately that's not how it works. So Deep, I think we should probably just talk about this in the morning. I'll get up a little bit early and we can do it before the dev sync. And then this last one here, ensure we communicate recertification process. So this was just something that was sort of blocking me with the 400. I just didn't get around to testing this case, but I know it needs to happen. I'm very happy to let Alan and David take this one over if it means we get things out on time. I just didn't get to it because that 400. I think this guy is totally fine. I think this has probably just been superseded by other stuff and it's just hanging around. Yeah, so those are the changes. That's everything left on the Trello in the must-have or the QA board. The key things are the help docs. I'm going to bump Duncan, just make sure that that can happen tomorrow. We have the warnings in the validation during create and update need one more pass. It's mostly just during update and mostly focused around the changing the expiration date and when there are warnings. And David and Alan might just want to go through and ensure that that success step, like the last step, all the messaging is okay. And same with the review step. So it's kind of just like getting more eyes on the review step. Otherwise, I think everything's ready to hand off. It seems reasonable that Deep should get this finished. Help articles should be finished tomorrow, and this one should be done super fast. Very early tomorrow, my working day. I think that's pretty much all that's left. Okay, bye for now.